Miracles come while we in the fight. Don't give up and hold him tight. You will have a visible battle scar, but never forget who you are and fight, fight, fight.
Hello and welcome to Embracing the Fight. I'm Erica Lamar, the digital creator of Embracing the Fight. This podcast was designed to normalize the conversation about physical and mental health issues and concerns. So, sure, anybody could do this, right? That's true. But I'm doing this because I'm currently battling thyroid cancer. And I want everyone out there to know that whatever it is you're dealing with, whether it's physical or mental health, you can get through it. You just need to get you a good support system. Tune into this podcast, ask a lot of questions, spend some time taking care of you, talking about it. Because a lot of times people hold things in that if they just said something about it, it would reduce the anxiety or eliminate it altogether. All right. So what I want to do is, I know I've given my story on Facebook and I've talked a little bit about it to lots of different people, but I want to make sure that in my first episode, I give you everything about how I found out that I had thyroid cancer. Okay, imagine, let's just go back to last year, 2022. I was going to my internal medicine physician, and every time I would go, she would say, you need to lose weight. So I was playing tennis, I was running, I was lifting weights, I was eating like I was supposed to. I had even joined a fitness group, and I was working out 3 days a week, following a meal plan, doing all these different things. And I had dropped 40 pounds the previous year, doing, the same thing. However, for some reason, everything just came to a standstill and I just started gaining weight. And I was tired. I was having these brain fogs. I didn't know what was going on, but it seemed like nothing helped. And my blood pressure was going up. So she was prescribing me different types of medication for my blood pressure, but it didn't really do anything for it. My skin was dry. My hair was falling out. And I just wasn't interested in doing a whole lot of things because my body would get extremely hot. And when I said something about it to my mother, as sweet as she is, she looked at me, she said, "Do you think you're going through the change?" Like, no, I do not think I'm at that point just yet. I'm not. But anyway, I was having all these different things going on, and I was going to the same physician, asking her, can you help me? I'm not sure, what's wrong. I'm not sure what's going on, but I do not feel like myself. And her response was, you need to lose weight. All right. So I started back, trying to work harder. I was playing tennis even longer. Some days I was playing, 3 hours a day. And when I would get home, I would shower and I would crash. And when I say I would crash, I would take a shower and literally wake up the next day wherever, I was after I took that shower. So it was like I was either in a chair, or I was sitting on a bed, or I was sitting on the floor, but I would fall asleep wherever I was. And my alarm was going off, at 2:30 and 3 a.m. for me to get up to go to work. And I would go to work. I was tired. And the guys that worked for me, they could see it. And all they did was take pity on me because I guess I'm a good boss. I made that assumption that I'm pretty easy to work for. However, I just did not feel like myself. But I was forcing myself to get out, forcing myself to go to work, forcing myself to do all these things to be the very best that I could be. And all the while this is going on, it's like my blood pressure wasn't getting any better. But the doctor said all my numbers were fine. Okay. So I went in one day, she looked at me, she said, "You know what, your thyroid is a little bit, large. So I'm going to, send you for some lab work." All right. So I go to get the lab work done and everything. And then a month later, I go back in there. She looks at me and she says, hey, everything is normal. You just need to lose weight. I'm like, okay, there has to be something else that's going on here. Because I was trying really, really hard. Mind you, I was a former college athlete. I mean, that might have been, 20 years ago. But still, I played college tennis. So I know what it's like to get your body in tune and ready. And I can drop weight, with no issues really. All right, so we're going forward, back and forth, back and forth. So one time, my doctor was not in the office, and I actually talked with her PRN, and I told her about some of the issues I was having, and then she was like, well, your blood pressure is actually going up for whatever it is that, she prescribed you with, and I won't mention the name of it, for obvious reasons, but anyway, she took a portion of it away, and she just left me with a diuretic. Blood pressure instantly goes down, all right? So then I realized, okay, maybe I need to get a second opinion. By this time, months have passed, okay? So it's getting to be the time where you have to do your physical for your job's insurance. And it was that time for me. So I said, you know what, I might as well just get everything done at my OBGYN because, he's a really good OBGYN. He's very thorough, all this good stuff. All right. I called to make an appointment. This man has moved out of the state. He is up there in the northern part of the United States in the cold, servicing people up there. And I'm down here in sunny Florida, like, what in the world? So anyway, I started looking on Google, and I was trying to find a doctor that I felt like, really cared about people and really asked a lot of questions and was just concerned, generally. And I started reading some of the reviews of these different OBGYNs. Well, this one stuck out, way further than everybody else because they were talking about her bedside manner, her level of intelligence, the way she was able to break things down that were extremely complex to make them very simple, even for a child to understand. So I was like, great, I need to go to this lady. And she was able to see me within 2-3 days. I was actually amazed because it's usually really hard for you to get in to see an OBGYN, on short notice. So anyway, I go in. And she's talking to me and she's asking me all these questions, and she stops. She looks at me and she's like, you have a knot here. And she's touching it. She's like, it's pretty big. I need to send you to have an ultrasound, of this. And also when you get your ultrasound for that, you might as well get your mammogram, and we're going to do your pap smear today. And she's, just talking. And then she stops and then she says, okay, do you have any other, issues? And I started telling her about this sound that I'm hearing in my ear, and it just sounds like the ocean. It's going by my ear. You know how you take a seashell and put it up to your ear? That sound is constantly going on the right side of my head. So I was like, this has got to stop. This cannot be life. And she was like, okay, I'll send you to a neurologist to have that checked out. And after we do this ultrasound, I have you set up with an endocrinologist, and we're going to get all these things taken care of you because you look, pretty healthy. We want to go ahead and send you to have some labs. And everything came back, great, except my thyroid, right? So my thyroid was hypoactive. You know what that means, right? That means you go gain weight. It means your efforts are futile. No matter what you try to do, that thyroid is like, nope, I'm not helping in the metabolism. I'm not helping with nothing. I'm just going to sit over here, watch you work hard, drag yourself, and I'm just going to put out a little bit of hormone. Just enough so you don't get sick, but not enough to cause the rest of your systems to work together to help you use the fuel that you're putting in your body correctly. So I was building more fat than muscle because my thyroid was basically being a little hater. It was not working for me. All right. So after I've done all the tests and everything, so this was on a Tuesday that I actually went to the doctor. And a couple of days later, after I had done all the tests, because I was able to get in the same day to do the ultrasound, and the next day to do the blood work. And then on that Friday, the OBGYN gave me a call. And she said, I want to let you know that you have a mass that is at least 6 centimeters on your thyroid. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. So she was like, we have to get it off, but I want you to understand that 95% of the tumors that show up on your thyroid are benign. So we're not going to think anything negative, at this point. What I want you to do is gather as much information as you can, and I want you to take care of yourself. If you need anything, please let me know. My office is going to call you back. They are going to set you up an appointment with an endocrinologist, and we're trying to do that, as soon as possible. On Monday, I get a call from the endocrinologist, and they tell me, when I can come into the office. Then a couple of days later, get another call from the neurologist. Neurologist calls, they set up an appointment as well. All right, so I go to the endocrinologist first, and when I go into her office, she looks at me and she was like, who were you going to all this time? You can see that thing from across the street. And I'm sitting here thinking the whole time that my neck is just fat because I can't lose weight. And my internal medicine doctor is constantly saying, you got to lose weight, right? All right. So the endocrinologist says, I'm going to send you for some additional blood tests, but we want to set you up for surgery to go ahead and get it removed. All right. So then she sets me up with a general surgeon. I go see the general surgeon, and she reviews all of the blood work and tests that were given to her from the endocrinologist, and they set up my surgery. Well, my surgery is then set up for, guess what? One day after my birthday. But it didn't happen. So this is why it didn't happen. We had a storm come through Florida called Ian. And Ian said, ain't no surgery is happening today. So, no surgery, right? All right. So instead of sitting there being sad about it, I said, let me reach out to this neurologist and see if I can't get all these tests done that they say I need, to have done prior to coming in, for the visit. The visit was actually scheduled for November the 4th. So after seeing the neurologist the first time, just for the entry-level, visit, there were certain blood tests that I had to take. I actually had to have a spinal tap done. And that's basically where they take a very long needle and stick it in your spine to remove cerebrospinal fluid. Because her thought was that I could potentially have an overproduction of this cerebrospinal fluid on my brain that was causing this sound that I was hearing. Because previously, I had issues where this happened before, and that's how they relieve the pressure, that's how they relieve the fluid, all that, and I didn't have the issues anymore. All right, so they were testing that cerebrospinal fluid as well for cancers and any other issues. Okay, so then I came back in, and this was on the 4th, and they went over everything with me to tell me that I had a genetic disorder that's referred to as factor V Leiden. So factor V Leiden basically says that your blood is going to clot a whole lot more often than most people. And then at the same time, from the MRI and the MRV that were done with and without contrast, those were two of the other tests that the neurologist ordered. Both of them showed that I had what they call arachnoid granulation or a thrombus. So when they say a thrombus, they're talking about a blood clot. So at this point, they're saying there's a potential for me to have a blood clot, on my brain. All right. So I don't think anything about it because they said we're going to prescribe you Eliquis, and then after you have your surgery, you'll just start taking this Eliquis and it'll take care of everything, but you'll probably have to take this for the rest of your life. All right. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, I'm not really one for medicine, but I don't know of any natural thing that you could take that will help to do anything with blood and with it clotting, I should say. I know there's turmeric for inflammation, but what actually has a anticoagulating property that occurs in nature? If you know, send me a message, let me know. I'm very interested to know this because I really don't like medicine like that, but I know that you have to take some medicine and some things because there are no alternatives if you want to have a better quality of life. And that's just my opinion. I am not a doctor. I do not have a degree in any form of medicine or anything like that. This is just me, personal. This is just me talking here. Okay? So then after, I did all that, I remembered that they had called me and they left me a message telling me that my surgery is now scheduled for November the 8th. Okay? So what I do on November the 8th is I take this paper with me that has a diagnosis on it, and I take it with me to surgery, and I have my parents with me, and we're sitting there waiting. And after we wait for a little while, I go in. My mom goes back first, and she ends up staying back there the whole time because when the nurse comes over, I say to her, I have this diagnosis that was given to me from my neurologist, and I believe it's very important that my surgeon, gets a chance to see this. So she says, okay, I'll put it in your folder, but make sure you mention it to the surgeon, when she comes in. Okay. Surgeon comes in and she gets my chart. She sits down. Mind you, she is the best. And she's sitting there flipping. Oh, she stops. She looks at it. She looks at me and she says, we can't do surgery today. So from September the 27th to now, November the 8th, I hadn't had surgery. I still have this mass that's growing inside of my throat, or not really in my throat, but on my thyroid. And nobody knows what it is because there has been no biopsy of any kind. No one knows really how big it is. It was just an estimation, from the ultrasound. And now this really, really sweet, really intelligent doctor is sitting across from me saying, no, we can't do it. All right. So she begins to explain. She says, basically, because you have this factor V Leiden in your blood, that if we had done surgery and you had a blood clot on your brain, you would have been paralyzed or you would have had a stroke and nobody would have known what happened. No one would have had any idea. You just would have been dead, basically. So she was like, we have to do another plan of action. So what I need you to do is I'm going to give you some orders. You need to see a hematologist after you see a radiologist. And what I'm going to have this radiologist do is a fine needle aspiration biopsy. So basically what that is they take a series of small needles and one at a time is stuck into the thyroid while they're looking at an ultrasound of the thyroid on the screen, and he gets samples, 6 of them, and they take them away to run a pathology on it. Okay. So that was what the course of action was. So I had the fine needle aspiration biopsy done. And a lot of people ask, was it painful? No, it was actually kind of interesting because I was looking at the screen while he was doing it. And he was standing, like right here poking. I'm looking at him, looking at the screen, looking at him, looking at the screen. And, they're all kind of joking and talking to me. And then at one point he had to tell him, hey, y'all gotta stop talking to her because I'm, somewhere near her vocal cords. I don't want to screw anything up. And the nurses were joking with him saying, hey, that thing is so huge. If you screw that up, you need to quit today. So anyway, he gets his samples and the pathology is done. And then maybe 3-4 days later, I get a call and they confirm that It's 95% suspicious for papillary carcinoma, and that is thyroid cancer. And that's like the first stage of thyroid cancer. And thyroid cancer is also determined, the stages are determined, I should say, by your age as well. So if you're under 55, 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you that it's papillary carcinoma, because this is the first stage. 55 and older, it progresses. And that's something that I'll focus on, a little bit later on in an episode further down the road, so you can understand the different stages and how they determine what those stages are when they are giving you your diagnosis. That is, if you're dealing with thyroid cancer, or if you're a caregiver for someone who has thyroid cancer and you want to understand more about it. All right, so after we get this diagnosis, it's now, okay, you absolutely have to have surgery, and we have to do it, sooner than later, but we can't do it until you're cleared with a hematologist. All right, so then I go to this hematologist. Man, great too. I mean, I am truly blessed for all the doctors that I've been dealing with this year and last year, 2022. They have been absolutely amazing. They've answered all my questions. They've scheduled me at a moment's notice. I mean, it's like I matter, to them. I know I matter to myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some me, but I matter to them. And when you're choosing a physician, make sure that those people that you choose care about you too. Otherwise, things could go unnoticed. Kind of like, how I had this mask for a long time and I was being told, oh, you just need to lose weight. And all she had to do was some additional testing. Then I might not be going through all of this right now. It may have been a little bit different. Who knows? But everything happens for a reason. So I'm not, complaining. I'm just saying you have to be the greatest proponent for your health. This is not anyone's responsibility but your own. Okay? So then after I go and I see the hematologist, again, here we go. First time when I see the neurologist, I had to give 15 vials of blood, okay, for all the tests that she ran. Now, I'm over here with the hematologist. He wants 16. So like, good grief, do I have any blood left? I mean, I was like, goodness, that's a lot of blood. So anyway, he ran a lot of other different tests because he wanted to see if I had any other genetic disorders or defects in my blood. Because initially he was like, oh, it shouldn't be so bad. We should just be able to give you anticoagulation after the surgery is done. But then I told him what the surgeon was saying, that because there was no anticoagulative measure in place, that was why they couldn't do the surgery at all. So he was like, well, why is that? I was like, well, when you pull up that diagnosis from the neurologist, they said I had a blood clot in my brain. So then he asked, well, have you ever had blood clots before? So the answer is yes. I had knee surgery a few years back, and I had been laying down all the time because I was non-weight bearing. I mean, who wants to get up, move around on crutches when you still can't put any weight, on the limb that has actually had the surgery? And that's where the blood clot formed, in the calf of my right leg. So he's like, okay, well, you've only had one. I was like, no, I've had two. And he says, well, what happened with the second one? All right, so I'm going to tell you, I went and I played tennis in Houston. I had a great time. Actually won. My partner and I won the tournament. Yes, we did. We won the mixed 8.0 doubles. I didn't win with my ladies partner. She's my best friend, but I did not show up. It was too hot. But anyway, what happened was I wasn't hydrating like I should have. And I promise you, it was 110 degrees in the shade. And what I did was I drank a little bit of Gatorade here and there, had a little bit of fruit, all that. But the night before I actually played, my whole body was a Charlie horse. I didn't have a Charlie horse. My whole body was locked up. Everything was hurting. And I literally had to sit there and I drank 6 bottles of water. I drank, it was like maybe 3 or 4 bottles of Gatorade. I then ate like cranberries and nuts, bananas, And then I took a massager and did both legs, both arms, back, side, neck, all that. And my body finally, loosened up. Mind you, I was going to the restroom all night long. So I still don't know how I got up for this 8 a.m. match, considering the match that we completed prior to that one ended after 11 o'clock that night. And it was a 3-hour match. 3 hours. All right. So after all of this, my body was just like, oh no. So then 8 o'clock in the morning, we played for another, 2.5 hours. And we were victorious, but my body was like, we not getting enough potassium. We not getting enough water. We are dehydrated. But did I pay it any attention? I said, look, I'll just get something to eat and something to drink at the airport. And when I did, I felt horrible. And I couldn't figure out what came over me. But the person I was traveling with, he was looking at me saying, are you okay? And I really didn't know. I really thought that I was having a stroke. I don't know what was going on, but I did not feel well. But then it went away. I mean, in an instant, it was just like nothing ever happened. And then when I got home, the back of my leg was hurting. I'm thinking it's because, I'm not stretching like I'm supposed to. I'm doing all the things you should not do before you play in a tennis tournament. All right. So I'm thinking, okay, this is just because I need to stretch. So a couple of days go by. Both legs were hurting, mind you. So this is why I was thinking I needed to stretch. So the left leg stopped hurting. At this point, I'm getting like tired. I'm like, oh, no. I'm feeling the same way I felt when I had a blood clot from when I had knee surgery. Sure enough, I go to the emergency room, blood clot. So after I explain all this to the hematologist, he then says to me that you are predisposed to blood clots because now you got those two in your back pocket, which would have been, who knows? It might not be so bad. You might not need to take, any type of anticoagulation, not on a regular basis. You might just need it, occasionally. He said, but because the radiologist and a general surgeon and the anesthesiologist were talking, they all believed that you did have a blood clot on your brain, or you still do, because you have not been taking the anticoagulative measures because we told you, to hold off for surgery, right? All right. So then he tells me that I can start taking it. He prescribed it to me, and he says, at first, they're like 48 hours, cut it off, then you go to surgery, you should be fine. And he said, but I'll send, specific orders. So if anything changes, when you call the office, we'll work it all out. Great. So what happens is there were some things that were going on that weren't quite coming together for me because I was trying to get my surgery completed before the end of the year. I was trying to get it done sooner than later because think about it. I had already paid for it. I paid for it back in September. So I don't know how that works because if I carried it over into the next year, the biopsy and the other things that I had done, would I have to pay for those things as well? Because that's a major concern. If you think about it, if you meet your deductible, then you pay a lower amount or nothing at all. So I'm thinking, this is cancer. 1, get it out. 2, paid for it. 3, the sooner the better, right? All right. So I end up having a surgery date of December the 21st. All right. So I go in. My parents are with me again because they are the most awesome support system. And I am thankful to God that they are still here. My parents are in their mid to upper 70s. They're still driving. They're still doing everything that they want to do, everything they think they want to do, and everything they think they're big and bad enough to do. And I love every part of it. I hope to get to that point. But anyway, my support system, they're here. And they're taking care of me. And we go in for surgery. So this time I take my dad back there, right? All right. So the doctors come in And they're asking all these questions. So they asked 100 questions. One question stood out to the anesthesiologist. He says to me, when did you stop taking the anticoagulative medication? I said, it's been about 5 days. He says, 5 days? I said, yes, it's been about 5 days. When I called the office to get the instructions concerning my surgery, they told me I needed to cut it off at that point. So that was 5 days. So I'm talking to the hematologist office, and they're saying, yeah, 5 days, cut it off. Okay. So when the nurse calls to schedule the surgery, she's saying the same thing. So 5 days it was. Okay. Well, when the surgeon comes in, she says, we got to do the surgery. Well, she's like, we don't have to do the surgery, but because we know that it's cancer, it is extremely necessary for us to get this out. But you're in the same situation you were in last time, because now the anticoagulative measures are out of your body. So now, same thing could happen. We don't want you down the table, but you got to think about it like this. You take a risk one way or the other. Whether you have the anticoagulative measure, you could bleed so much and not stop bleeding, and have an issue. Or you could not have the anticoagulative measure and your blood could clot and you can have a stroke. You can have all these different things happen. So my dad's sitting there, and this is not good news, for him. But then I tell him, like, Dad, you have to think about it. It's either one or the other. And I feel like I'm going to tread that line that's directly in between, where I'm not going to bleed too much and I'm not going to clot. Everything is going to work just fine. Because I feel like when I talked to whoever that was was designed for me to have 5 days. Because I'm afraid to say, I'm honestly thinking if I had been doing it up to the 48 hours, I might have bled more often than not. Because I cut my little finger and it was bleeding like crazy, prior to me shutting off the anticoagulative measure. I mean, it bled all night long. So I'm thinking that, this person that told me 5 days, I'm actually thankful for them. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. None of that, because I still had, was given the surgery. So basically, the surgery was performed with me knowing the risks. And I was fine with that, because I would rather have it removed than for me to have a cancer that spreads. Okay. So after the surgery was complete, what I did was I took a video just to let everybody know, I was okay. And I just want to thank everyone for all the support, that poured in for me after this surgery. And I mean, it's people I don't know that were serious prayer warriors for me. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely appreciate all of that. So after the surgery was over, it's like they come in, they tell me this thing was much bigger than we thought. And she was saying that my neck muscles apparently are so strong, they like had a chokehold on it. So it didn't like expand any further than my thyroid, because everything was so tight in my neck. It was like, nah, you stay right there. You can't go anywhere. You gotten big enough in the space that you're in, but you're not spreading any further. And she also took several lymph nodes to see if it had actually spread. Once she pulled out my thyroid with the tumor itself was 9 centimeters. 9 centimeters. That's a lot to be stuffed in this little space, right? So I call it my little hot wing, because that's what it looked like. It looked like a barbecue hot wing, the little bitty drumette, not the flats, because I don't like flats. I like the drums. So maybe I ate one and it got stuck. Who knows? But anyway, that's what it looked like. And they sent it off, for pathology, and they sent the lymph nodes off for pathology as well. And the lymph nodes came back, benign, no issues. So that means thankful, glory to God, that the cancer did not spread. So now I've been placed on thyroid replacement medication, the hormone replacement, and I'm taking it day by day. Like I was saying, I do have to take my naps. Naps are an essential thing. I'm gonna have to figure this out, when I go back to work. I'm sure, it will have built up in my system and everything will kind of go back to normal. And then guess what? I have lost 6 pounds. 6. I'm not exercising. I'm not eating any different. Other than, wait, I take it back. I'm eating a lot of vegetables and a lot of fruit, at this point right now, because I'm participating in a fast with my church for the first 21 days of the year. So right now I'm doing it. But a couple of days ago is when it actually started. But prior to that, I hadn't done anything different, and I dropped 6 pounds just like that. So I know now that this hormone replacement is doing what my thyroid should have done. So when I go in to see the doctor on Friday, she may adjust it up, down. I'm not sure. I know she's going to probably draw some blood, but she's going to look and see too if she's able to remove these stitches. And most of the time when they do thyroid surgery or the total thyroidectomy, what I understand they do is they put like a glue there to keep it closed. But because the hole was so large and the void was so large, she had to use sutures to close it. So with with them taking these sutures out and with them adjusting the medication and then having to figure out, if this had any impact on this sound that I've been hearing or anything else, I have all these different things that I have to follow up with my doctor. And like I said, she has been absolutely amazing. And in a later episode, I'm hoping that they'll agree to come on so I can talk with them and you can meet them as well. But for legal reasons, obviously I can't just share their names and where they are right now because they have no idea that I'm doing this podcast. But I feel like if I take the proper documentation to them, explain to them what I'm trying to do, that they'll be on board because all of them care about people. So that is why this whole story that I've just told you, that is why I'm extremely passionate about creating this podcast to help people get through thyroid cancer specifically because I'm dealing with that right now. However, depression, grief, the inability to lose weight, any issues that you all have, I'm going to take time to have podcasts to talk about those things. I want to bring people in that are going through this process. I mean, it's great to see people who've made it, through to the other side. But isn't it just so much more impactful when the person shows you what it was like before, during, and after? So then you can see yourself through it. So I would like for you all to join me every Wednesday at 6 p.m. to embrace the fight. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it, and feel free, like I said, to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those details will be in the show notes. You all have an amazing day. Thanks again for tuning in to Embracing the Fight. I'm your digital creator, Erica Lamar.